So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy Ellen. I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. Now, this video here is titled, Ben Carson humiliates AOC to her face for asking useless questions. Now, I cannot lie, y'all. Over the past year, I've been dabbling in and out of the stock market, right? Getting to know it, understanding it, what drives it. So that required me alone to really have to start digging into the news more. You know what I mean? I was never one of those kids growing up that really paid attention to the news. But the older I got and started realizing different things and became a more mature adult, but I really locked in this year, right? I'll be honest with you. Watching some of these meetings, I'm like, yo, this is like a free-for-all in here. Like, this is like, you know how they be on wrestling? When I used to watch wrestling as a kid, they be like, it's total pandemonium. It's total pandemonium in some of these meetings, man. People be talking to each other sideways, out the way. They be getting frustrated. Some people are talk down to you like you're a child. People be looking at you like you got the nerve and the gall to ask me this or say this to me, and it strikes a nerve, and then it's back and forth, and I'm like, okay, y'all need a referee in there. It's to the point where you think they need a referee in some of these meetings, and I was like, nobody never told me. Why didn't anybody tell me? Why didn't anybody tell me this was going on and this was this interesting? You would have thought you was tuning into an episode of Jerry Springer in some of these meetings, but it happens. So we're gonna check this one out. Not sure what type of sparks may fly or may not fly in this one, because Ben Carson is normally a cool, calm cat. So we're gonna check this video out. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, join the fam, and here we go.
Okay. Secretary Carson, in December 2017, you delivered a keynote at the Manhattan Institute where you stated, quote, "The war on poverty sometimes conflicted with the war on drugs, which often dealt harshly with nonviolent offenders, taking men away from their families and disproportionately affecting minority communities." Are these your words?
Yes.
Do you acknowledge that the war on drugs
Told y'all, he's so cool, calm. Y'all remember when you were younger, your parents used to talk about like Billy D. Williams, how smooth he was? That's how I look at Ben Carson. It just, yes. Like he doing a commercial right now. Yo, that guy is smooth.
Are these your words?
Yes.
Do you acknowledge that the war on drugs disproportionately impacted Black communities and communities of color, despite marijuana and other drug use levels being comparable to white communities?
Traditionally, that has been the case.
And I see here, are you also aware that when a formerly incarcerated person is homeless, there's a 60% chance that they will be rearrested? But if that same person has access to housing, the percentage drops to 29%.
True.
Housing is one of the factors that...
Definitely. A person who's homeless, they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to get to it. So 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to commit a crime to try to either feed themselves or gain clothing or something like that. So they're more likely to fall victim to crime. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that I would agree that's a true stat.
It drops to 29%.
Housing is one of the factors that is beneficial in preventing recidivism.
Mm-hmm. I'm concerned here that the war on drugs has not been solely limited to incarceration, and that the negative impact of the war on drugs has not been limited to incarceration. But also we had legislated rippling effects that also seems to have been codified in our housing system. Are you aware of HUD's one strike rule, which evicts tenants for a single incidence of criminal activity, no matter how minor, with no holistic review?
There is the ability of local jurisdictions to alter that rule.
Mm-hmm. But federally, this provision still...
So basically, it's at the discretion. You know what I mean? No two cases are the same. So you thinking, okay, this person didn't get in trouble. Maybe my situation may go the same. No, it's at their discretion. So that's crazy.
alter that rule.
But federally, this provision still persists, correct?
As far as I know, it's still intact.
And so a person could be stop and frisked and be found in possession of a small amount of marijuana and then be evicted or have their entire family evicted from public housing.
That is a possibility.
Are you aware that owners and public housing authorities...
How do y'all feel about that in a day and age when it's legalized in so many states now? How do y'all feel about the ones that are not? You know what I mean? I've heard both sides of that coin. You know, some people saying, well, it's still legal. It's still illegal in your state and you have to follow by the rules. Some people will make the argument that this is crazy. Other people in other states have it legalized. Why are we catching charges over here? Because our government is slow to keep up with the times. How do y'all feel about that? Which side of the coin do y'all fall on with that? That's been an interesting topic lately.
That is a possibility.
Are you aware that owners and public housing authorities can subject tenants to tests for alcohol and drugs?
It can require that, yes.
And I see here that we also have no-fault policies where an entire family can be evicted for the criminal activity of a guest of the household, even without the knowledge of anyone in that household. Are you aware of that provision as well?
The use of such activity is extremely limited, if ever used.
But they are still codified.
That's crazy. That's insane. You know what I'm saying? I get it. No, I don't. Y'all have to help break that one down and make it make sense to me. You know what I mean? You don't always know what a person is capable of or what has done because they've hidden it so well. You just think that's a family member. And a lot of times a family member could show up to a function and be somebody else's plus one that you invited. You didn't invite that family member, but he came as a plus one with somebody else and now he's there. You didn't know. You was just trying to have a family event and now something happens out of your control and now you're evicted. Like, that's a rough one right there, bro. You know what I mean? I just had a Memorial Day event at my house. Queen's cousin came by that she hadn't seen. She brought her boyfriend. We didn't know who he was. You know what I'm saying? So if something would have happened, not saying we live in a HUD home, but just take that situation and place it in that scenario there. What do? You didn't know. Now you can't. So what you're saying, you can't never have an event or something like that. So that's a tough one.
It's extremely limited, if ever used.
But they are still codified in federal law, correct?
Is it on the federal books? As far as I know, it's been on the books for many, many years.
Do you support reversing some of these provisions?
Which provisions?
Say the no-fault policy.
I can talk about that on individual cases if you have an example that you want to talk about.
Well, I'd say, would you support being able to move some of these policies over to a more holistic review? You know, you yourself asked for case-by-case consideration. Should that case-by-case consideration be codified in federal law instead of having blanket one-strike or no-fault policies?
I'm always in favor of more flexibility.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, Secretary Carson. I'd also like to highlight there's been much talk about the issue with NYCHA and public housing, and it's horrifying, the conditions that are happening in NYCHA. It's horrifying that people are living through winter without heat, opening their ovens to try to make sure that they're able to sleep through the night. But I think it's important to notice that this is not about throwing more money to the problem. This is about throwing the money at the problem. NYCHA and public housing across the country has been starved by members of Congress for over 15 years. And that deficit has built up for many, many years, which has led to, in New York City alone, a $32 billion price tag to make sure that we get people basic heat, hot water, and so on. And I don't think that, no matter what policy changes we make, you can't take food away from a child and then not understand why they can't or don't eat. And I think that that's exactly what's happening with our public housing program. Chairwoman, I would like to seek unanimous consent to submit to the record a New York Times article on what it would take to fix New York's public housing.
Without objection, such is the order.
Thank you very much. And I'd also like to make of note that the provisions that we wanted to reverse, including one strike and no fault policies, are being introduced in our bill on the Fair Chance at Housing Act. Thank you very much.
The gentlewoman from California, Ms. Porter, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carson. Are you in favor or opposed to adjusting the interest curtailment penalty schedule for FHA loans that are in default?
I don't know that I can say broadly. I think you.
Well, I'm asking you to state specifically.
I think you got to look at specific cases. In some cases, I might be in favor of it. In some cases, I might not.
Okay.
Yo, my turn chair. Do y'all see what I mean by me saying his calmness? Because I see where it's about to go left, fam. I see it about to go left. She came in hot. The other lady, she was, this lady just came in hot.
You to state specific.
That I can.
Watch how she came in.
Interest curtailment penalty schedule for FHA loans that are in default.
I don't know that I can say broadly. I think you.
Well, I'm asking you to state specifically.
I think you got to look at specific cases. In some cases, I might be in favor of it. In some cases, I might not.
Okay, do you know what the interest rate curtailment schedule is at FHA and how it's different from the GSEs?
Well, we tend to try to maintain a lower interest rate at FHA.
I'm not asking you about the interest rate, sir. I'm asking you about debenture interest curtailment penalties.
Did you just not ask that? Maybe something's wrong with my ears. And that's the great thing about playback. Did she just not ask that question though?
Interest rate FHA.
I'm not asking
try to maintain
the GSEs. Do you know what the interest rate curtailment schedule is at FHA and how it's different from the GSEs?
Well, we tend to try to maintain a lower interest rate FHA.
I'm not asking you about the interest
You didn't even let him finish his statement.
rate, sir. I'm asking you about debenture interest curtailment penalties.
Explain.
So, all right, so FHA uses different servicing and conveyance procedures than the GSEs do. And the result of this is that the cost of servicing, mortgage servicing at FHA for a non-performing mortgage is 3 times the cost of doing the equivalent servicing at the GSEs for a non-performing loan. That tripling of cost in servicing, which then has the effect of reducing the credit availability to the American people, because when you drive up servicing costs, then servicers overlay with cost overlays, and it makes the loans more expensive for the very homeowners that FHA is designed to serve. So my question I'm trying to drive at here is, why is FHA, to use a term that I think we can both understand, lousy at servicing mortgages?
Okay.
First of all, what do you mean by a term that, see, you could have said that in a way to where I wouldn't have took offense to it. Maybe you wouldn't have took offense to it. But the way she came off just then, I'm about to see what he about to unload on her. How y'all felt about the way she just said that? Did it make you move in your seat? Did it make you cringe a little bit? Because I did.
So my question I'm trying to drive at here is, why is FHA, to use a term that I think we can both understand, lousy at servicing?
Like he's not educated. That man is very, 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 very qualified and educated.
Servicing mortgages.
Okay, I have not had any discussions about that particular issue, but I will look it up, find out what's going on.
So as you look it up, I'd also like you to get back to me, if you don't mind, to explain the disparity in REO rates. Do you know what an REO is?
An Oreo?
No, not an Oreo, an REO, REO.
Real estate?
What's the O stand for?
organization?
Owned, real estate owned. That's what happens when a property goes to foreclosure. We call it an REO. And FHA loans have much higher REOs. That is, they go to foreclosure rather than to loss mitigation or to non-foreclosure alternatives like short sales than comparable loans at the GSEs. So I'd like to know why we're having more foreclosures that end in people losing their homes with stains to their credit and disruption to their communities and their neighborhoods at FHA.
And that's a legitimate question. A legitimate question. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a great question. It's just how you went about it. It's just,
With stains to their credit and disruption to their communities and their neighborhoods at FHA than we are at the GSEs.
I would be extremely happy if you'd like to have you work with the people who do that.
Well, Mr. Carson, respectfully, that was my day job before I came to Congress. So now it's my job to ask you to work with the people.
I'm talking about the people at HUD who do that.
I've spent a decade working with the people at HUD on this problem. So what I would like you to do is to take this back to FHA and to ask the folks at FHA, because since 2007, I have been writing about the problems in FHA's servicing. I am a huge fan of FHA. I am a believer in their mission, and I am a champion for them. Are you?
Of course, I believe in the mission of FHA.
Are you a champion for the institution, the organization?
Very much so.
Okay, so let me make sure you understand. When a loan, the most common outcome for an FHA loan that goes into default is REO. There's a conveyance process. Are you familiar with this?
I know about the conveyance.
All right, so let me ask you about conveyance. What actions is HUD taking to change the conveyance process at FHA to address the loss recovery differential between FHA loans and GSE loans?
Well, again, you're getting way down in the weeds here.
Because it's real American people are out of their houses, so they are literally in the weeds when they are foreclosed on.
Understood. And I'm very happy to put you in contact with the people who deal with that. If I got down in the weeds on every issue, I wouldn't get very far.
Okay, appreciate it.
Who sounds like a guy who grew up having to defend himself. You know what I mean? And I ain't just talking about in like street fights or nothing like. I'm just saying, you know, in certain households, you got to have a sharp tongue, or your cousins and different people will get the best of you. So, you know, as they used to call, my pops and them would call playing the dozens. You used to have to be able to snap on each other and get back quick and remind people that, nah, this ain't what you think it's gonna be. And he just reminded her right there that I can put you in contact with people to do that. And if you're serious about it, you'd be willing to get in touch with them. But it seems to me that your issue is with me. Because if I had to stop and deal with that individual problem, and then something over here goes lacking, so I have to be able to delegate and get people in contact with the right people to solve this problem so I can move on to the next one. I can't just get bogged down in one area. See, when you get to a certain level, delegation is the key, and you're overseeing all those delegations. I gotta bring that back. I'm sorry. Whew. That was game, set, match right there.
To address the loss recovery differential between FHA loans and GSE loans?
Well, again, you're getting way down in the weeds here.
Because it's real American people are out of their houses, so they are literally in the weeds when they are foreclosed on.
Understood. And I'm very happy to put you in contact with the people who deal with that. If I got down in the weeds on every issue, I wouldn't get very far.
Okay, appreciate it, but this has been a problem for years.
That one out the park.
The Urban Institute issued a major report on this, and I will be happy to send you a copy.
I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
I want to make sure let me ask you this. Given these problems, the outcome is that FHA is the leading cause of blighted homes in the United States. What can you do about that? Do you understand the relationship between the blight and the servicing problems?
Well, I understand that blight is a huge problem, and that
And then it comes from your agency's inaction on servicing.
I'm not sure that I'm willing to accept that FHA is the cause of all the blight that we have.
I hope you feel.
Fam now, like I said, she made some great points. It's not that, it's how you say different things to people, how you talk down to people thinking they're uneducated on the issue. You know what I mean? And he just and his calmness, that guy, I think that's what irks people the most when they're speaking to him, and what gets them so frustrated is his just calmness. Isn't rattled. That's the type of person you want in those positions, though, when you think about it. You want somebody that's calm, who's able to not be rattled. You know what I mean? Who works well under pressure. You get what I'm saying? It's just that type of calmness is what you need. If you have an emotional person that responds and an emotional person that crumbles in the face of adversity, then you're going to have problems after problems after problems. Shout outs to Ben Carson, man. You know what I mean? Salute to him. I may not always agree with anything, with what he says, and some things I do, some things I don't. But one thing I respect, bro, the man is definitely intelligent, definitely knowledgeable, and most definitely calm and poised. Y'all get at me in the comment section and let me know what y'all thought of this, man. Ben Carson humiliates AOC to her face for asking useless questions. It's your boy L, man. Y'all stick around and stay tuned. Until the next one, I'm gone. Peace.